What is good? This is a Nuchannel Sports Takedown. Back at it again. You know what it is. This is a solo dolo with your host, Chris. Got a good takedown for y'all today. This is a good takedown. And you know how I do it. I like to go straight into my takedown. This one's real simple. The process is over. The process is over. The Philadelphia 76ers inexplicably, here's that word again, inexplicably lost 3 home games. 3 games at home in a series that went to Game 7. They lost to the Atlanta Hawks with all that star power. You have Trae Young. You have Trae Young. Oh, come on, man. Danilo Gallinari, good player. Kevin Huerter, the ginger, good player. Collins, good player. Clint Capella, good player. But the Sixers boasted a team win. Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons. They have 3 guys who are good to above. So the Atlanta Hawks have 1 really good player. And then guys who are average to above average, at least in the NBA. And the Sixers have 1 megastar in Joel Embiid and 2 really above average players. So going into this series, you would think that the Philadelphia 76ers would win and win comfortably. In fact, that was most people's prediction. But that didn't happen. And because of that, the process is over. Before I get into why the process is over, I want to let you guys know to check out our podcast, the Nuchannel Sports Podcast. You can check us out on nuchannelsports.net. That's spelled in nuchannelsports.net. You can also check out our podcast on any platform, Stitcher, Apple, Podbean, wherever and anywhere. You can also check us out on Instagram. Check us out on the gram. We have new posts on the gram pretty much every day. Posting new content. You can also catch our lovely faces on Afro Vibes TV. Catch us on Afro Vibes. We're doing wonderful things on a wonderful station. You can see our lovely faces on there. Afro Vibes is doing great things as well. Let's talk about why the process is over. There's really not many reasons. I like to give you a top 5 reasons for the process being over, but we know why the process is over. You know why the process is over, and it starts at the feet of one Australian. I think it's Australian. I think he is. Has nothing to do with anything why I'm naming him first, but it's Ben Simmons. The LSU guard, the next LeBron James. I mean, he was touted as that guy, and he's not at all. The crazy thing is he's a great player. Okay, great's a stretch. He is a good NBA player. A very good NBA player at times. And for whatever reason, he cannot shoot a basketball. But that's not just the problem. He's afraid to shoot the basketball. If you watched Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks, the game was 86-88. The game was 86-88, and Ben Simmons had a wide open layup to tie the game. And he passed the ball. Because in his mind, there was no way he was not going to get fouled and go to the foul line. And we'll get to the foul line in a second. So he passed the ball to his teammate, who was indeed fouled, and missed a free throw. And that changed the entire game. It truly did. There were possessions down the stretch where the Sixers were down 4 points. Well, if he just laid the ball up, it'd be a 1-possession game. He missed it. His teammate missed a layup, and that was that. Ben Simmons is going to get most of the fault laid at his feet, and he deserves it. He deserves it. You got to criticize people when it's true. Check out my last takedown, and I talked about it. I talked about the Bucks, and I talked about this guy. I talked about Ben Simmons, and I said in my last takedown, if the Sixers lose this series against the Hawks, it lays at the feet of Ben Simmons. He gets the bulk of the blame. I'm going to talk about another individual who's going to get some blame in this, but the bulk of the blame goes to Ben Simmons. I told you I'd talk about his free throws, and you knew I was going to talk about his free throws. They're called free throws for a reason, because they're supposed to be free. They're supposed to be a free opportunity for you to get points for your team. Ben Simmons could not do that. In fact, Ben Simmons alone missed more than 40 free throws in these playoffs. Let me break that down. More than 40 free throws in these playoffs. 40. That's more than some people will take in an entire playoffs. But he missed that amount. In fact, Ben Simmons has missed more free throws than the entire Phoenix Suns team in the playoffs. The entire team. How? He's a guard. How has he not progressed from year one to now, when his team was in prime position to get to the conference finals, to play a team in the Milwaukee Bucks that are not infallible, right? This team is not the scariest team of all time. And yet, on their home floor, they lost game 5 in a pivotal swing game, up double digits, and they lost game 7. And indeed, this makes it worse. Ben Simmons didn't even attempt a shot in the fourth quarter. He didn't attempt more than 5 shots in the fourth quarter for the last 5 games in that series. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing because he had 13 assists in this game. And the number one thing that every single NBA fan is going to look at is that box score and how many times he shot the basketball. And he simply refused to shoot it in the game where his team needed it most. When you watch the replays of Game 7 of this series, you'll see Joel Embiid had a turnover at the end of the game. Joel Embiid is a big man. He is a big man. And as much as I love watching big men, and as much as Joel Embiid is my African brother, you find me a tape in the last 20 years in the NBA where a big man was taking the ball up and down the court to score the important baskets at the end of a game. It doesn't happen. Even with Dirk Nowitzki, there was Jason Kidd, there was Jason Terry on that team to get him the ball in a good position. But you can't do that with Ben Simmons, because in the fourth quarter when he has the ball, under 2 minutes, they're going to foul him anyway. He will get fouled, and he will miss the free throws because he has no confidence in himself. Zero confidence in himself. So most of the blame lays at Ben Simmons' feet. But it also lays at the feet of the Sixers organization. Let me explain myself. Why hasn't the organization forced him at some point in time to take more jump shots? That I will never understand. I'll never get it. I'll never get how a player can be in the league for this amount of time and be afraid to shoot. But then again, it's not that surprising. There was another player in the Sixers organization that was afraid to shoot. You forgot about that. Markelle Fultz. He had that shoulder injury and he stopped shooting. Something in the Sixers organization is, I don't know if it's a psychological thing, but it has to certainly be part of a coaching thing. Brett Brown, the former coach, and now with Doc Rivers, where they have players who are afraid to shoot the basketball in the National Basketball Association. It's really crazy if you really think about it. It's the National Basketball Association, and you have players on your team on more than one occasion, players who had high profile coming into the NBA who are afraid to shoot. And you as an organization were incapable of fixing that. You didn't get it done. So as much as the blame goes at the feet of Ben Simmons, the blame goes at the feet of the 76ers organization, because this loss that they just lost in Game 7 is a complete embarrassment. I was embarrassed for that organization, and I am by no means a Sixers fan. It was embarrassing. Flat out embarrassing. They lost to a team that was inferior to them. There's no other way to explain that. At the end of a Game 7, particularly in a Game 7 when a team wins on the road, you say, well, the better team won. But I have a hard time doing that, and probably you do as well. Because the Sixers were the better team. They had a double-digit lead in games 4, games 5, and game 6, and they blew game 4 and they blew game 5. With no proper justification for blowing those games, they blew those games. And the process as we know it is out the window. There's no way that the Sixers can justifiably bring back Ben Simmons next season. The only reason why they probably have no choice, I'm sure Daryl Morey wants him gone, Ben Simmons. He wants him as far away from the organization as possible. But what are you going to get for him at this point? What are you going to get for him? He clearly needs a new scenery. Him and Joel Embiid, they're not working. He needs a new scenery, but where would he go? I didn't even mean for this takedown and taking this turn, but hey, I'm already here. Where would he go? Portland? That would be the only spot. Maybe Portland gives up on Damian Lillard and says that's that. Or maybe you trade him for CJ McCollum. But I think Portland's a worthwhile team to call. It's worthwhile to call. You have an all-world player in Joel Embiid. He just needs a guard to help him at the end of the games. That's what he needs. If he had that in this season, they would have won the championship. And a lot of you Sixers fans, this all goes back to the NBA essentially pushing out Sam Hinkie. All right? They pushed out Sam Hinkie, and after that, the process has gone downhill. Because after they pushed out Sam Hinkie, the new group came in with the Colangelos, and they traded up when they could have just had Jason Tatum fall to their feet. They traded up to get Marco Fultz, who's no longer on their team. And I think we all know if this team had a Ben Simmons, I guess Tobias Harris wouldn't be here. A Ben Simmons, a Jason Tatum, and a Joel Embiid, they probably win this series because Tatum gets it done. That would have been the new Shaq and Kobe. If they just would have took Tatum, that would have been Shaq and Kobe. But it didn't work out that way. I don't know what this comparison is. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. But there's another person who deserves some blame for the end of the process. And that's Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, man. He's a good coach and he's a good guy. I actually look up to him. I respect him a lot. Great family man. Coaching in the NBA, playing in the NBA, has a son in the NBA. But man, you got to look at his postseason resume, and there's a lot of questions to be asked. Gave up a 3-1 lead with the Orlando Magic with Trace McGrady. Gave up a 3-1 lead with the Clippers with Chris Paul. Gave up a 3-1 lead with the Clippers yet again with Kawhi Leonard. Too often, Doc Rivers has the team that is the better team in this series, and his team doesn't get it done. And for me, what was most embarrassing about, perhaps not embarrassing on his part, but what was most telling is the fact that he came out every single night during the playoffs and convinced us why he had to keep Ben Simmons on the floor, or at least why he was keeping Ben Simmons on the floor when he needed to keep him on the bench. When you have a guy who's not willing to take and make the shot, it hurts your team. It hurts your team. That guy becomes unplayable. I don't care what his stature is. I don't care what his star is like. I don't care what you're paying him. The goal is to win a championship. And once Doc Rivers saw that this man was unwilling, incapable to take a shot in the fourth quarter to get it done for his team, Doc Rivers should have sat him down and stopped him. Stopped him and saved him from himself. Because you could see psychologically he just wasn't there. But Doc Rivers didn't do what had to be done. And too often, that's what he does. Look at Ty Lue with the Clippers. In the first round, the Clippers were playing the Dallas Mavericks, and Ty Lue sat down a guy that his owner, who he was staring at, signed for a lot of money in Luke Kennard, and essentially didn't play him in the first round. Because he did what he had to do. The goal is to win. Not pacify emotions, not to have people feel good, not even to necessarily even look good. The goal is to win. What did my boy Herm say? We play to win the game. That's why we play. And Doc's teams time and time again don't win. Look at Ty Lue and those same Clippers. when they could have given up so many times like they did under Doc Rivers. With Ty Lue, they just didn't do it. And there has to be something to that. I'm not saying Doc is a bad coach. There's a reason why once he was fired, he was immediately hired. But the question has to be asked. When your team is in a position where they're down emotionally, from Doc's track record, he hasn't been able to flip that switch to pump, to motivate his team to get past that proverbial hump or whatever you want to call it. That's a problem. For me, that's a problem. And I don't like saying that because I really do like Doc Rivers. But what has happened to the Philadelphia 76ers is an organizational meltdown. When Markelle Fultz refused to shoot, okay, that's one thing. Maybe it was just, I understand he was going through some psychological things, but you saw that happen already with Markelle Fultz. And now you have Ben Simmons. I don't understand as an organization how this has not been resolved by now. And if you're Joel Embiid, you're looking around saying, guys, now wait a minute. I'm playing here with a partially torn meniscus. And you mean to tell me you can't shoot the ball, bruh? Come on now. I'm giving everything I've got. I can't exit like this. Sixers have some questions to answer. They got some questions to answer. But one thing I know for sure is the process is over. It is definitely over. Ben Simmons may not be traded, as I alluded to earlier, just because I don't know where he could go. But if there was ever a year for the process to be fulfilled and for them to win, it was this season. I'm hurt because you may think I'm a Sixers fan. I'm really not. I just don't like seeing teams blow opportunities. The Jazz, during Game 6, blew a great opportunity. The Bucks almost blew a great opportunity, but they got it done. The way I compare Ben Simmons is if you look at Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday in Game 6 of the semifinals versus the Brooklyn Nets was 1 for 10 shooting the three-pointer. And he was just as bad in Game 7. Couldn't make anything. But the reason why he stayed on the floor was he was willing to take and make big shots. He had a little run at the end of regulation, had a little personal, I believe it was a 7-0 or maybe 6-0 run where it was just him taking and making shots. And the defense was there. He kept them honest, but you can tell he still had that belief. You can look into the eyes of a man and tell if he has that belief. And looking into the eyes of Ben Simmons, you could see it all series long that he did not have the belief. And the confidence is gone. He may still have it later on in his career. I believe he can. But I just don't think it can happen in the Sixers organization. And without Ben Simmons, the book, the chapter, the saga, whatever you want to refer to it as, the process is over. Thank you so much for listening to this takedown. I really do appreciate you. Please do not hesitate to hit that like button. Smash the notification bell. Subscribe to our YouTube page. You know how we do this. We do it for you. We do it for you. Thank you so much for listening. Check out our podcast on nuchannelsports.net. That's Nuchannel spelled N-U, channelsports.net. You can check out our podcast anywhere you listen to your podcast, Apple, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you listen, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, whenever you listen, we are there. And also, you can check out my articles on theleadsm.com. In association, you can also check out those articles on Bleacher Report. I write for the Houston Rockets. I think I covered it all. Oh, social media platforms as well. Check us out on social media, on Instagram, on Twitter. We're always tweeting or having posts on Instagram. Feel free to interact with us on any medium. We're also on Facebook as well, y'all. We're always doing different things, so keep up with the movement. We are moving things here. And also, if you want to see our beautiful faces, you can catch us on Afro Vibes TV. Check us out there as well. Thank you so much for listening. And you know how I always end these takedowns. Stay safe, y'all. Please stay safe. Peace.